Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, Tahj equals wins, Conyers equals catches. And it's really that simple, right?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you. Wrapping up the week and, of course, some thoughts from your conversation with Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire, the weekly convo on Thursday night. Always revealing for a variety of reasons, but I imagine as we get into today's topics, which will include some thoughts on the effectiveness of Jalen Conyers so far, he'll be in a big spot this week for obvious reasons. Also want to get into something interesting that we, I think, kind of hoped would progress this way along the offensive line with your left tackle spot, but kind of curious what it's actually going to look like by the time you get there on Saturday at 2:30. And want to get to what was back in the mix for Texas Tech, and obviously always a good thing. That's number 28, Tahj Brooks, whenever that is the case. But I have to imagine just in general, you find a Coach McGuire that may be, and I know he's always very enthusiastic, so I don't know, maybe you don't notice a difference, but certainly following a game like what you got against North Texas versus the last time around against Washington State, and with Big 12 play knocking on his door, maybe double energized. Is that a fair way to say it, or how'd you find Coach McGuire?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's excited about what he feels like is a really big game. This, I guess what is tomorrow at 2:30, and obviously excited about the result from last week. There's no doubt about that. And in good spirits, like he was last week when it hadn't gone well. That's the beauty of Joey, because he'll often tell you, nobody realizes how stressed I am because I can't ever show my players that. And but he, a lot more fun to go over everything on the show last night about the North Texas win, because it was, okay, do you want to go over the 3 takeaways? Do you want to go over the 100-yard game that your running back had? How about the very efficient performance by your quarterback? Or how about maybe a newfound left tackle that had a pretty good deal? How about all the young players that played in this game that you got to see play and all that, and the defensive performance. I mean, the 0 for 9 start on third down conversions that you held. So yeah, just take your pick. We spun other wheels on this show.
That's right.
This one we were spinning a wheel of like, pick the good thing, pick your fun topic here. There was a million of them.
Yeah, we went from wheel of pain to wheel of pleasure, baby, in 7 days.
That's right. And I'll tell you, because I know we're about to talk about Tahj, but along the lines of talking to coaches, who the guest was last night was associate head coach Kenny Perry. And Kenny is got a ton of personality. He's been doing this a long time. I think he told me this is year 32. And he said, I've never had more fun than I'm having right now. And it's early in the season, and I think he's found a good spot. But, when you stop and think about this, and I think Kenny wouldn't necessarily want the credit here, but I think we need to point it out. I told him, I was like, dude, you're like a good player magnet. Like you got chick magnets out there. He's like a good player magnet. Like, let's think about it. Under his supervision or the positions or whatever he's responsible for. I mean, Tahj, Dre McCray, all Big 12 returner. He had what should have been an all-conference and one of the best punters that's ever played for you last year. You haven't gotten a ton of glimpses of the crocodile punter this year in Jack Burgess, but he's been really good. He mishit one up at Washington State, but he's had a couple of others that are just bombs. And I think Kenny's so good with the kickers. It's like, what? Let's just let 2 of them do this. Like y'all are just making everything. But like when you stop and think about it, like the specialists, the running backs, really in a good place. And so somebody like Kenny Perry, I bet he is having some fun. I mean, I bet he darn sure is having some fun. If this is because he's got unbelievable humans that he's in under his tutelage as well. I mean, we know about Gino and the wine tasting classes, and he just makes field goals, right? Other than in Laramie. But we're not going to hold that one against you there, Gino. Dre wins Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week 2 weeks ago, and all he wants to talk about whenever it's announced on social media is this is really a credit to the other 10 guys on the field. He wants no credit. I mean, I was like, you're a dude, man. This is why I can be a fan of yours. And we all know about Mr. Brooks. So, and on it goes. I just wanted to point that out because Kenny wanted to. I did find out that he wants to learn more about how to play chess, and he's scared of snakes. He's claustrophobic. He likes green beans. Okay. So yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the other things that we got into, but he's got a lot of personality, and he keeps Joey leveled out. Like, remember the yin and the yang? I mean, and Joey's joked about this. As much as Joey wants to talk and is excited about everything and wants to promote the program, he's got Kenny Perry over there tugging on his shirt going, hey, man, slow down. Like, back up. Beep, beep, beep. Like calm down. Don't tell all the let's not make anything. And so it's just a good match. And I think they love each other for it. And they're best friends and all that stuff. But I wanted to make sure that we discuss Coach Perry quite a bit here.
Yeah, and his guy that is there on the screen, Tahj Brooks, we know that when he's on the field, obviously it's good news for the Red Raiders. But what did you tell me the record was when he's going over the century mark within a game?
Joey cited the stat that, and I didn't fact check this. I'm just going to go off of the fact that I think the head coach knows what he's talking about here. The Red Raiders are 7-2 when Tahj goes over 100 yards. That's a pretty good. Which ironically enough, 7-2 is also the Big 12 home record for Joey McGuire as a head coach. So some synergy there with some 7-2s. But that's because I thought when he mentioned that, I thought, well, there's a 7-2 rolling around in my brain. I'm trying to remember what went next to it, and it was, well, it's Joey's home record in Big 12 games since he got here. But yeah, so being at home, get Tahj Brooks over 100 yards, pretty good little matchup. Let's make those happen tomorrow at 2:30. What do you say?
Yeah, seems pretty simple, right? Just go ahead and roll it on out.
That's right. Right.
I do think it does require, a decision from offensive leadership, offensive play callers and the like to try to establish something like that early on. And I know the thought of we're taking what the defense gives us and we're not going to bang our head against a wall if there's 7 or 8 in the box and yada, 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 yada. But I really like the way that you started the game a week ago with a deliberate intention to get Tahj Brooks going. And he got going very, very quickly. And obviously it paid dividends for you as the game went on in the passing game, as well as we had that play action itch scratched seemingly time and time again. We'll stick with what's happening on the offensive side of the football, because something that we were relieved to hear. First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors, and eBay has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride on the road, or elevate your car's game to the next level of performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, accessories of all kinds to fit your style, whether it's speed, power, or design you're into. eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to perfectly fit what you need. Just head over to ebay.com/motors, where you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and at no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply. We'll stick with what's happening on the offensive side of the football, because something that we were relieved to hear was that Sterling Porsche is going to return to availability. Does that equal returning to being your starting left tackle? Maybe a Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. And this is something that you alluded to earlier in the week. You talked about, hey, even if he progresses toward being available, not so sure that means that Dalton Merryman is, out of the starting lineup. There are some different things that each of these guys obviously have going for them. So I think it's one of the more interesting cases, and obviously at a premier position, one of the more interesting storylines for Texas Tech, still fairly early on in the season and early in the conference schedule. So are we going to keep riding this Merryman go round, or do you think we see a switch here? And I know you probably don't have a definitive answer right now, but what's the vibe?
No, but you have context clues. And you have, because I'll just offer this up to you. So last night I brought up a variety of different things in the game, as we talked about. And one of them, I was like, I don't want this to get lost. But I mean, you have a new left tackle or one that played really well that hadn't started the season. And I don't want his performance to get lost in this deal. So Joey starts talking about Dalton Merryman and positive, and that he's an enormous, individual. Yeah. In fact, I think Joey joked, because there's a picture of Dalton Merryman and looking down at Coach McGuire, and I think Joey's daughter Reagan got a hold of that picture and like sent it to him, or said something on social media. It was social media, and said something like "little dad" or something like that along those lines. Because Dalton he's at least 6'8", maybe 6'9", 300-ish. And Joey went on to say he's really doing a good job about adding more weight, but this is just it's an enormous frame, and they need to add more weight to it. But I think he's doing that and all that.
Yeah, he looks the part.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And so in the midst of that answer, he kind of just said, Sterling will be back this week. And the thing about Sterling is we can play him at left tackle, we can play him at right tackle, we can play him at one of the guards. And so I take that to mean that Sterling will be more of your swing tackle or swing guard or a super sub, kind of your sixth man, if you will. The way he starts talking about him playing all these, he's got the ability to play all these different positions. So I'm going to almost take that to mean that Dalton is going to keep his spot at left tackle for another week. So we'll see kind of what that looks like. Competition will be drastically different. Schematically, it'll be drastically different. Yeah. There's going to be a lot more blitz with Arizona State. So we'll kind of see what happens there with the offensive line. But it looks like you'll go into this week or tomorrow, I should say, the same way that you started last week's game. How about that? So
I guess I didn't know that Porsche had that versatility to him. Was he getting some work at those other spots in fall camp, or is this just previously in his career?
I think they've done that's one thing that's why when you go, you hear about them doing scrimmages or spring ball or whatever, it's really hard sometimes to glean a ton from it because of all the different things that you've got going on with cross training and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that either he's had that going on, or they were like, hey, you better learn all these other things because we got a left tackle. I don't know.
Yeah, like no time like the present to pick it up and get going if you want to stay in the mix. That's really interesting. Do you think that they've been what's the read on Ty Buchanan so far this season? And I know we're still, again, fairly early on, but happy? Is the door open for somebody else to take some snaps, or what do you think?
I think just steady. I'll say this. I did see this number. Texas Tech has been sacked on just 4% of pass attempts in the fourth quarter since last year. Okay, so it's just that's a goofy stat that's kind of pulling some things out, but they have not given up a ton of pressure, I think, to this point. And that's more specific, I guess, to the fourth quarter and like when it gets really going and all those things. And that goes all the way back to last year. But I think so far it's been pretty good. I think with Ty, he's just been steady. I think that he's a lot like just the line in general. I don't think it's otherworldly. I don't think it's just god-awful. I think it's just going to kind of be in this, and really you honestly just hope in this steady, it's okay, it's serviceable. Maybe it has you some bright spots. Maybe it dips a bit. You just hope that the dam doesn't break. And it certainly helps tomorrow that now you've got some quality depth. Now you've got a guy that was a starter that maybe comes off the the bencher is available if somebody's not getting it done, or whatever the case may be, or however they do it, if we're putting those context clues together correctly.
And you're talking about some blitzing and things like that you'd anticipate from Arizona State in a different way, or I guess more often possibly than what we've seen so far this season. And historically, of course, one of those things that can certainly help an offense kind of fend that off, to use some industry jargon, como se dice, run the damn ball. So something to keep in mind on that front as well. And I do kind of wonder if you can get some things going early on, not trying to make chess out of it when it could be just checkers, but if you get some things going early on with Tahj Brooks, could you see a blitz or pass rush sort of muted as the game goes on, forcing them to account for what 28 is doing? Sounds great on paper and on a podcast, I know. Easier said than done. But historically, that has been a great way to keep a defense from just teeing off on your quarterback, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll see if they can improve because, I mean, let's just call it what it is. Last week was not a great game in the run game. I thought what you really did was on a few of those plays, and then it really set up, and then I thought Barron was so good down the field. But, I mean, how many negative runs was it?
Yep.
How many 3 yards or less carries was it? I mean, a ton. So much so that you're up 52-7, and the head coach is looking at me going, "We got way too many negative runs, man." I'm like, "Coach, you just had the half of a lifetime. You just put 35 points up in the third quarter or the second quarter," and all he wanted to talk about was like, way too many, negative runs are just getting us in the backfield. Like, it's ridiculous. And so we'll see kind of where that goes because, again, I will say the competition going to be a bit stiffer. The scheme going to be a lot different. And they're going to show you different things, and they're going to come after you a little bit. And so we'll kind of see what an inexperienced left tackle, if he's in there, what that looks like. Maybe an undersized guard and Davion Carter. What that, so
sure,
it'll be interesting how a redshirt freshman center holds up. So
quarterback who's trying to, I think, still kind of fight off some shell shock. I mean, is he getting happy feet? Is he throwing it going backwards? Is he feeling pressure that's not there or something? I mean, there's a lot to consider, obviously, when you're talking about a defense coming after Baron Morton. I am kind of curious. This all kind of ties together here perfectly because I want to wrap it up talking about one of our tight ends. But before we get to one specifically in Jalen Conyers, I mean, obviously tight ends can contribute to some protection as well. You'd like to have them as a pass target also, but curious to see if we'll see some of that in the mix. Just trying to give number 2 a little bit more time. But as for Conyers, big spot for him. Obviously, his former team coming to town. And as we were talking about Tahj Brooks's 100-yard games correlating to success and wins for the Red Raiders, Jalen Conyers' targets so far has correlated to success, it sounds like, for the Texas Tech passing game. And, man, I know he's made some big plays. He had one of the highlight plays of the year right out of the gates so far in week number 1. But I guess I didn't consider, or it was a little bit lost on me, just how consistently productive it's been when you've gone to number 12. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and America's #1 sportsbook is shaking it up to kick off football season with an offer a football fan can't afford to miss. Right now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. And, of course, you can cancel at any time. Again, from right now through September 22nd, bet $5 and take advantage of a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. A little bit lost on me just how consistently productive it's been when you've gone to number 12.
Yeah, and this is, I don't know if this is like a big game for him, if this is just kind of like maybe he doesn't like this game in a way, but the connection between Jalen Conyers and Arizona State is there. He was there on this roster obviously a year ago. And I think that, there's just some focus on him this week. But as far as like what he's, and we can get into some of that and just kind of had some great stories about not just him, but John Carlos Miller from the show last night we can get into as well. But yeah, Jalen has been targeted 11 times and he's caught 11 passes.
That sounds good.
Math is fun there when the percentages equal 100.
That's right.
So when I look to you, I throw it to you, you catch it, we all win. and we've obviously seen him be in the backfield. And Joey, Coach McGuire talked about this a lot last night too. And this is the part that you don't want to get lost in us talking about him as a playmaker. Those 3 touchdowns that last week in that special diamond formation, I mean, Jalen Conyers is in the backfield there. He's a part of that from a blocking standpoint. This is what NFL folks want to see from him. I think that everybody knows with the ball in his hands, he's a problem. He's a mismatch. I mean, you're seeing the athleticism when you use him as the Wildcat QB. The knock has always been, and Jalen even said this back in early August, I wasn't really involved in the run game last year at Arizona State. And I think he would say, and it was my fault because I wasn't a good enough blocker, or they had other people that were better. And that's what the NFL folks want to see from him. Can you be a well-rounded tight end? Because at the NFL level, if you want to do this and we pay you a lot of money, you got to be able to do all these things. You can't just be a one-trick pony or a one-trick Sun Devil or a one-trick Red Raider, whatever it may be. You've got to be able to block and chip and go out and run good routes and then catch it and the yak part and all this stuff, the yards after the catch. But I think Jalen's really improved on the run blocking, almost where Zach Kitley and Josh Cochran have almost just forced him to be better at it. Like, this is what's going to happen. You're gonna come along and you're going to do this. And I think he's received that, accepted the coaching, and he's been better for it. I think there's some improvement that can be made, but I want to make sure we point that out too. But 11 for 11, man, that's salty. I mean, that's really good. Because if we're looking up, and that percentage is in the 90s when we get, and you probably targeted him 25 or more times here in another, 6 to 8 weeks. If that percentage is still in the 90s, I mean, you're talking – that's maybe all Big 12 type stuff is what that is.
That greyhound will hunt, as they say.
Yes.
I was kind of interested. You were relaying to me part of sticking with the tight ends, some thoughts on John Carlos Miller, not only the great catch and run and the touchdown, but some of the athleticism on display. And I don't know if Grant McCaslin's getting him a jersey ready or not, but he's got some ups.
Yeah, so and I mentioned this on the show last night. I talked to this kid earlier in the week for part of the broadcast, and the media met with him. He's extremely soft-spoken. He's very chill, very well thought out. And so when you get this version of him, and then I think back to last Saturday, and I see him running down the field, and it's like, you know what? I'm tall. I'm running really fast. I got a ball in my hands. Let's just throw it over the goalpost and have some fun. And so I wouldn't have thought he would have been like one that would be like that, Right. I think he's a couple things. I think he was. Joey said we had a lot of frustration within our team that we were really let out. And this was just part of the deal. We're just like letting out a lot of pent up emotion, and it just kind of snowballed on North Texas, and John Carlos Miller was a part of that. But the funny part is that he does this. Josh Cochran, the great tight ends coach, was up in the booth, and he is, according to Joey, he is losing his mind at his player over the headsets. And then other coaches started weighing in on the headsets, and Joey was like, I said, okay, tell me, coach, be honest. Did you high five him? Did you think it was funny, or did you have to get mad at him? Like, what? Like, this just transparency here. He said, man, I really wanted to get mad at him and tell him, he goes, everybody was flipping out over it. He goes, so I got to be the good cop. He runs over to me and he goes, I looked at him in the eyes and said, unbelievable play. I loved it. Don't ever do it again, but you're about to get your butt chewed out by all these guys on this headset. So just be prepared for that. But I'm proud of you. One of those deals. And so he got to be the good guy. But his position coach and maybe the coordinator, and because it is a 15-yarder, kind of puts you behind. You don't need a lot of that. But I thought it was fun. I don't know if the folks wearing the wings on their helmet that were green color thought it was too much fun, but I certainly did.
I'm thinking of Lou Brown. Great catch. Don't ever do it again.
Willie Mays Hayes. That's exactly right.
Well, like I said earlier in the week, if the home stadium is fine with the post being dunked on, shouldn't be a penalty. And I'm sure the folks at Jones Stadium were fine with it. But he got it either way. Okay, great play made. And glad they got to celebrate. Maybe he got to learn a little lesson as well. But yeah, kind of all people, strange to see him get the first excessive celebration penalty of the year. Hopefully the last, but hey, if you got things to celebrate, wouldn't mind having to face that challenge of just handing the ball to the ref again. Hope to get back to that end zone again someday and maybe make the right call. Chris, appreciate the time all week, man. Enjoyed it as always, and ready to get down to it. Big 12 play is upon us, and the Sun Devils fitting the description of the first potential victim. 2:30 from Jones Stadium. Looking forward to it, man, and we'll talk to you on the other side of that.
Sparky's going down. That's right. We love you all. Thanks for being a part of this. And all week long, we will see you at the stadium or talk to you afterwards or something tomorrow. But appreciate everybody, and hopefully you have a good Friday out there. And guns up. We'll talk to everybody next time.
That's right. And make sure you get subscribed if you haven't already on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks especially, as always, to those everydayers out there who are chopping it up with us. One of the best ways to help us grow the show is to comment anything below on YouTube. So thanks again to those who are mixing it up there. And a big shout out as well to those Matador Mob members. Week number 1 is just about in our rear view. It's been fun talking with you all week long. It is a direct line to Chris and myself, texting like crazy. I mean, my wife thinks I got a girlfriend or something, which she knows that I don't have the game left in the tank.
I saw one of these at Rudy's Barbecue, one of these members last night, and he said, hey, I'm the one that said something about somebody's haircut. Can y'all tell that it was me? I'm like, well, you told me just now that it was. No, seriously, Bob, appreciate it. Thank you for watching these shows, being a part of the Matador Mob. Thank you for showing up to Coach McGuire's show last night at Rudy's Barbecue. But yeah, man, good stuff by all.
Yeah, appreciate you guys being out there. If you want to get into the Matador Mob, it's very easy. You can find the info in the show notes or on our X page at Locked On Tech. Get a 14-day free trial to try it on and see how it fits you. All right, appreciate everybody's time all week long. Thanks for being out there, and enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the ball game. We hope to see you back for the next round on the other side on Locked On Texas Tech.